The other night, I was at a house party when disaster struck. We had run out of beer. I was seemingly the soberest out of my group of friends, who had all devolved into shirtless maniacs doing their best WWE impressions as they jumped off of tables into one another, and decided I was going to be the one to go on the holy crusade that is the beer run. We're all in our early 20s, and the two 24-packs of beer we had bought just a few hours earlier had all been thrown up or pissed out. Did we need more beer? No. Did we want it? Hell yes. I was still a little wobbly and knew that driving was out of the question. Although I probably could have managed it, even my drunk brain knew it was a bad idea. My friend's house was in a quiet forested area, just outside the town where I lived, and the only way back was the road, or a shortcut by trail. The road was the safer option, as there was less chances I would run into a bear or something. But the night was dragging on, and the liquor store would close soon if I didn't hurry up. I knew taking the trail would shave a good 20 minutes, so I grabbed a flashlight and my jacket, then headed out the door and down the old dirt trail. The pleasant, warm breeze that had accompanied me as I left the house vanished, and the temperature dropped a few degrees as I strolled down the path. It was like stepping out of summer and into fall in real time, and I was glad to have my jacket wrapped around me tightly like a reassuring hug. The gigantic trees loomed into each other at the tops, creating a canopy of darkness over the path, with only a pinpoint of light I could see far down at the other side that was the town. I could feel my buzz wearing off as I walked, and emotions like fear began creeping back into my consciousness. It was almost pitch black now, and I flipped on my flashlight as I began thinking about bears or whatever else I could bump into out here. Then, at the exact same time, I saw another flashlight flicker to life somewhere down the trail. It was kind of weird, because there were all the reasons to head into town. But heading out this way, there were only a couple of other houses by my friends that seemed to be inhabited by retirees with lawn ornament obsessions, and I doubted they had the youthful energy to be doing a beer run themselves. Nevertheless, I continued walking, with only the sounds of my footsteps and blood in my ears to keep me company with my new acquaintance. I could make out a silhouette of the stranger now. He appeared to be my height, but my flashlight wasn't the strongest, and there wasn't much for the weak beam of light to bounce off of in the darkness. Me and the stranger probably had 30 or so feet between us now, and we were both walking in the middle of the path. I stepped to the right to make room for the man, and he stepped right too. I could feel my heart rate picking up as we got closer and closer. I stepped to the left, and the stranger did too. Closer and closer. I stepped right again, and the man mimicked me without pause. Then I stopped. There was maybe 12 feet between us now. I took a step back, and so did the man. I shined my flashlight at his feet. He, however, didn't copy me. I noticed we were wearing the same Adidas sneakers. I started to slowly raise my flashlight and realized we were wearing the exact same outfit. But he was filthy, like he had been buried for a few days, then dug up. With a shaking hand, I slowly raised the flashlight to his face and kind of blanked out. I had never felt fear so cold and blunt. It was like somebody had ran a bath filled with every nightmare I had ever had in my life, then held my head under the water. I was staring back at myself. My face. Even the little scar on my chin I had gotten from falling into my parents' coffee table as a kid was there. But this wasn't me. It couldn't be me. There were thin purple veins all over his face, pulsating in waves like tiny troops of ants were making their rounds under his skin. His grinning mouth was just a little too big and held just a few teeth too many, like there was another set hiding behind the original, like a shark's. But the worst part were his eyes. Or maybe lack of. There were cold, Venta-black tar pits, where my own light blue irises should have been. I was lost for a moment, just staring into those lifeless voids, when I heard a click, and my flashlight shut off. His was still on. I could see his feet firmly on the ground, waiting like we were in a game of chess and it was my move. Slowly, he started to turn the flashlight up towards his chin, like one does when telling a story around a campfire, and clicked it off. Silence filled the air. I very slowly began to turn around, when the damn thing shrieked, and I heard it lunging towards me. I screamed too, and began to sprint as fast as I could down the trail back towards my friend's house in the dark. At one point, I tripped and twisted my ankle pretty bad, but I caught myself mid-fall, and the adrenaline masked the pain just enough to keep going. I didn't stop running, nor did I look back, until I got inside my friend's house. I was in hysterics and crying. My friends turned the music off and gathered around to ask me what had happened. However, their concern quickly turned into laughter and ridicule when I told them what I saw in the woods. "Who shared the joint with this guy earlier? He clearly can't handle his weed," one of my friends said as the room erupted into a fit of laughter. They all thought I was kidding or crazy, but I know what I saw. I don't know what it was, but I know what happened was real. I'm losing sleep over this. And last night, I woke up and could feel something nagging at me to look out my apartment window. And when I did, I could have sworn I saw myself at a bus stop a couple of blocks away, staring back. It's hard to explain my horrifying situation to people. I spent a good 10 minutes mulling over a clear, succinct title for this post, and I reckon I've probably still raised a few eyebrows. I get it. After all, how can somebody follow you with their back turned? I first noticed him at a train station. A tall man with a tweed jacket, corduroy trousers, and stringy, scraggly hair that appeared to be falling out. He was standing with the tip of his nose mushed against the wall, An unmoving, faceless figure. I smirked to myself, finding him no less odd than the majority of drunkards in the city on a Saturday evening. But when I was getting off my train later, I noticed him again. The same tweed man, as I now call him, pressed up against the back doors. He was still turned away from me, but I recognized the unusual attire and the unkempt hair. Still, I thought nothing of it at the time. He had been on the platform. Why wouldn't he be on the same train? It was only as I walked home that things took an unnerving turn. A lone woman walking down eerily silent, dimly lit streets at midnight. It's not something I ever make a habit, but I've always felt safe in my hometown. I live in a sleepy village. There's no nightlife, not even on a Saturday night. And on this particular evening, there wasn't a car or a soul in sight. Not even the sound of animals rustling in bushes or trees. Absolute silence. So, when the clomping began, it was carried clearly by the still night air. I whipped my head around, squinting to make out the source of the sound. Along the hilly road, which stretches for a good half-mile, there was a lamppost. One solitary lamppost for the entire road. People have complained to the city council about it. But, like I said, the town's nightlife is always dead. Few people wander the streets once the streetlights come on. I was about 100 yards past the lamppost, wandering through the blackness, when I took another glance over my shoulder, and then I finally saw him. The tweed man. He was walking backwards through the glow of the streetlight. I might still have chalked it up to drunken behavior, but there was something utterly terrifying about his movement. The man's joints seemed to click in shaky, disconnected ways as his limbs jolted backwards, propelling him along the pavement. His torso ricocheted from side to side, and his arms hung limply in his oversized tweed jacket. The tweed man was somehow only a few yards behind me, still turned away and reverse striding. In a petrifying moment that instilled horror into my heart, the abomination started to bend backwards, almost revealing the face that he had been concealing. His elbow joints cracked ghoulishly, and his frightfully thin fingers stretched towards me. I still hear the wheeze that emanated from his lips as those inhuman fingers grazed the nape of my neck. I hear it in every waking and sleeping moment. A nightmarish wind from a place far beyond our world. Screeching inhumanly myself, I slipped free of the contortionist's grasp and hauled my body down the street, gunning for my house. Fumbling with my door keys, the most terrifying thing was the continued silence. Not a sound from that horrific man. But that didn't comfort me. There hadn't been a sound when he inexplicably appeared directly behind me. So I refused to turn around I slotted the keys into the lock, flung the door open, and shut myself inside the house, panting maniacally for a solid 10 minutes or so. I half expected to see him outside the door, or my front window, but my street was lifeless. I wish that were the end of it, but I've been seeing him everywhere, always with his back turned, sometimes standing still, other times walking backwards in that unhinged, dislocated manner. Train stations, city streets. I'm certain I once saw him behind the water cooler in the office. My colleague laughed and said nobody was there. I try not to be on my own, but crowds don't seem to stop him from coming ever closer. Last night, I thought I saw him in the corner of my room, a silhouette in front of my bedroom door. I screamed in terror, but the man was gone when I turned on the bedside lamp. What do I do? The police were no use, but they never take stalking cases seriously. And what would they even do to protect me from a seemingly supernatural horror? I can't describe this man beyond his clothes. I haven't even seen his face. I have a feeling that nobody lives long after seeing his face. If you want to use the gun, it's $200. And that includes one magazine. Now, if you want to use the knife, it's $300. And the baseball bat is $350. Hold on, said Nick, a man I only met minutes ago. How come the gun is less than the bat? If you use the gun, I'll die quickly. But if you beat me to death with the baseball bat, then I'm gonna suffer. And I get compensated for suffering. Nick started rubbing his chin. I gotta ask, are you really immortal? You're not just some suicidal weirdo, are you? I get asked that a lot, and there's only one proper response. I grab the gun and blow my brains out. Jesus Christ! Nick yelled. My body hit the ground, and I lay there dead for a second or two. And then the hole in my head started to bubble and fizz, and the blood and pulp regenerated into bone and skin. I coughed up some blood. Damn. Feels weird every time. You are immortal, Nick said, half bewildered, half amazed. Now, are you gonna pay up or not? I got lots of people who would love to murder me tonight. Yeah, Nick said, pulling out his wallet. So, your job is getting murdered? Must be lame. When I first became immortal, I thought it would be amazing. I had the time to read every book, learn every language, and become a genius. Turns out, I'm an idiot. It doesn't matter how many books you read. Geniuses are born, not made. The world kept spinning, and every year I felt further left behind. But there was one thing I was very good at: dying. It pays the bills. I said, "You mind if I ask how you became immortal?" I met an immortal who wanted to die. He asked me to cut out his heart, and when I took a bite, his immortality passed to me. Crazy, Nick said, pulling out $300. I take his money and hand him the knife. All right, stab me here, right in the heart, okay? Sure. Nick said, taking a deep breath, stepping forward, and stabbing me in the neck.
What the hell?
I said, spewing blood. And Nick stabbed me in the chest and began sawing. Sorry, but I'm gonna eat your heart, Nick said, ripping out my still beating heart. Don't, I said. Nick took a big bite, gagged, then swallowed. I went limp and stopped breathing.
Hell yeah, bitch, I'm fucking immortal!
Nick said, grabbing the gun and shooting himself in the head. Nick hit the ground like a sack of potatoes. I took a deep breath and sat back up. Dipshit. I realized that I would never be a genius, but I could still make the world a better place. I could get would-be murderers to kill themselves before they got the chance to do the real thing.